Hi, ready when you are.
So we are presenting on Southern American dialect. Yes, with an emphasis on the Lumbee language is what we like to call it. It's not a language; it's more of a dialect. But if you'll see where the heart is, that's where we are. So, okay, so some basic definitions and reminders for everyone, because I'm sure you all know this already, but we just wanted to go over everything again. So dialect is specific to a region. Accent is your pronunciation, and the language is a system of communication. Understand others inside your language. So as a rule, American dialects tend to share the same vocalic range, but the differences between dialects occur in the realization of the vowels and the phonetic. There are three major dialect regions, the South, the North, and the West, and we will obviously be focusing on the South. So the region linguists consider Southern is the highlighted one that was on our title slide. So that includes the states of Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Florida, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and then sometimes Delaware, Maryland, Alabama, and Tennessee. So it's a very big region of the U.S. So we have common attributes of Southern dialects, and I apologize, you can't see all of this. So we have the Southern vowel shift, which is SBS. Now, this is a chain shift involving the pronunciation of vowel sounds, and it's closely related to the idea of drawl, which we'll be going into. So there are three stages of the shift that occur as language changes. Stage one is a universally Southern trait, so it's found in all Southern states, accents, dialects, and so on and so forth. But essentially, the I sound changes to an sound. So ride, for example, now sounds like ride. So in stage two, this is found in almost all Southern states, but it is not universal. Now that the I sound has been removed or lowered, the diphthong of A has room for a lower starting point, and a glide is often included. So, for example, the informal word yeah now sort of sounds like yeah. So there's an emphasis and there's a glide. And then stage three is definitely not universal. It's only found in a few accents. It sounds like the I sound and the E sound are affected. So I can rise position and E lowers position. So, for example, the word fin sounds like in, and the word meal sounds like eel. So, in essence, it's a complex pushing and pulling back and forth. And to explain this in other words, because Fridland says it's much better than I ever could, the prominent change in the reversal in acoustic position of the A, of the E as in bait, and the E as in bet, as in bet, with the nucleus of A appearing lowered and centralized and E becoming higher. So it's also described as a domino effect. Then we have drawl, which is a monophthong, a single pure vowel sound with an added length, glide, or change in amplitude or pitch, and often has the impression of an added syllable. So everything is lengthened and drawn out. It's described as almost sounding like your words are being pulled from molasses. It's really interesting. And then you also have the alternation of ing and in a form of velar fronting. So according to Fisher's 1958 study of children, the fronting increases as the informality of a situation does, but interestingly, girls are more likely to favor the higher prestige ing form over the lower prestige in form. And then Trudgill's 1974 study of social class used 5 social class divisions among the South and found that as class lowers, the use of the in increases. So instead of thinking, it would be thinking. Walking would be walking, and so on and so forth. So now we have some general lexical variants and vocabulary associated with Southern dialects. So the most famous one is probably going to be y'all. It's a second person plural contraction of you all, and it's considered a successor to the archaic Middle English ye. So, and I really recommend the article in the Atlantic that we cite by Newkirk. It's a really interesting look at y'all, and the article says it offers both economy and an end to second person ambiguity, and it's also fairly gender neutral, so that's really interesting. And then we have the word reckon, which means to think. And then catty corner is something placed diagonally. So instead of saying kitty corner, you say catty corner. And then we have ornery, which is grouchy, mean, or cantankerous. And then this is my personal favorite word, cattywampus. It's a southern take on the American colloquialism cattywampus, which means sideways or askew. And I find this really interesting because it's possibly from the Scots Gael wampish, which means askew, or it's possibly from the word catamount, which refers to mountain cats. So mountain cats and their like attacks and disruptive nature on humans. So the etymology is very uncertain, and everyone seems to disagree on the meanings. But I think it's a really interesting word, and it's definitely something you should look into if you're interested by lexical variants. And then we have po' boy, which is a long sandwich with fried seafood and a really crusty bread, and this originates from the Cajun dialect. So we have a couple examples of other Southern dialects, but the thing to emphasize in this is that Southern dialects are really understudied. So with Cajun, for example, this is found in Louisiana and has a very distinct French influence. But as of 2006, only 6 studies have been done on this dialect. So it's often lumped together with Creoles, but at the same time, Creoles are different from the Cajun dialect because the Creole evolved from a pidgin, and the Cajun features all of the attributes of a typical Southern dialect. So in this table here, I know it's a little small, I hope you can see it, but this is vernacular patterns in Cajun. So it's got the use of the monophonation of the drawl, and it's got substitutions of sounds, and it has the percentage of raised features. So that's interesting. That's related to the Southern vowel shift that we talked about before. And then there's also Geechee, which is found on the south of Georgia, the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. And this has an African influence, but again, there have been very few studies done on all of these dialects, so we don't have much information about them.
I guess the question is the Lumbee dialect, which we're going to be focusing on next, any akin to any of these two, and they're not. They're all separate forms of Southern dialect. So, Lamita, if you'll hit the video, I went to Louisiana and I kind of did a mock interview with a Cajun person. So, hey everyone, this is Gary, our tour guide. So, I'm here in New Orleans trying to trace down my history. So, Gary, do you know anything about the name Fuqua? Yes, they got a lot of that. Where can I find it? My house. I'm a few, no, yeah. So they got a few most different and the third. I was just wondering, my mom okay, so if you can notice his dialect was totally different from what the Lumbee speak, which is totally different from what regular Southerners speak. So if you'll go on to the next slide, we'll continue. All right, back up one. All right, so these are taken from the Washington Post, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about my tribe to go on with the dialect. And if you can see, they're all beautiful. I miss my tribe. Go ahead. Yeah. All right, so a little bit of background. We are 55,000 members in the Lumbee tribe, maybe a little more. We're the largest tribe east of the Mississippi River, which is the largest river in America. We're only state recognized since 1855, which means we do not have federal recognition. So we don't live on reservations. We don't live in cities. People have asked me that. But we still live on state land. And one of the reasons that we don't have federal recognition is because we have lost our original language. So language has a lot to do with the reason why we are not federally recognized. Other Native American tribes fight against our recognition also because they say we're not really Native American because we don't have the language. We were one of the first tribes to learn English after genocide. We are made up of several different tribes. So what happened was when the English came over and genocide happened, the few that were left, we kind of bound together and created the Lumbee tribe. My home is the home of UNC Pembroke, which is where I go to school at, and we graduate more Native Americans than any other university in America. And an interesting thing about my tribe is we all kind of have the same last names or surnames. So you're either a Locklear, Hump, Brooks, Jacobs. You know, we all have the same last names. We're not related, but we have the same last name. And the language is believed to have had some Scottish origin. And I love this quote that says, the substance of Lumbee English has clearly been molded out of the varieties of English made available through contact with English groups and other various types. Okay?
Here we have a really handy map of North Carolina and I'll read this. So there are 8 Native American tribes in North Carolina, and then the Lumbee are right down in the south of the state, mostly in Robeson County.
Yes. Yes, so Robinson County is where I'm from, and that's where most of us, the three surrounding counties, but mostly in Robinson County. Um, all right, this is a picture of my family when I was little. That's my great grandmother. And as you can see, we all look different. We have different skin tones, different textures of hair. And this is my family. So the following video is really short and it explains about some of the vernacular we use in the language.
Cup of ale is actually sugar, coffee with sugar in it. You know? So it's like a sweet cup of coffee, a cup of ale.
Ron, bring me a cup of that ale in here. I want to smell it.
November. Okay, that's some folks call them a slingshot, but it's just what we would take a forked branch, cut it off, put rubber bands on it, tongue of the shoe, and make a little rock in it. But that's a November. That's all I ever heard until I got grown, found out they call them slingshots or something else. But that's what a November is.
Well, to me, when your mama something, you like you just treat it bad. You like to mess over it. You know, you make a mess of it.
You mumming up them clothes. You better get all that dirt out of them.
A totem is like an omen of something bad that's going to happen or a sign of death. You can see a totem or you can hear a totem.
Alone, that's just legal, that's just belonging. You say you're alone, that's identity. And we were up at Chapel Hill the other Sunday for the for Oleana's graduation, and they referred to the alumni as alums. I said, "How about that? We're all alums."
Lum is a Lumbee. You know, we refer to ourselves as Lum.
Yeah, those are some of the words we use where I come from.
And they're in current usage.
Oh yeah, yeah. So attitudes toward the Lumbee dialect. So this is something that I experience every day, and we've talked about it some. So the dialect gives a sense of belonging. So when I'm with my family or if I'm with other members of the tribe, I kind of speak in my Lumbee dialect, which is kind of what I do here. I feel free here to speak how I want to speak. I don't feel that pressure to be one way or the other. But the sword is like, okay, so if I speak lum around my lungs, I belong. But if I try to sound educated or speak academically, they look at me as if I'm better than, or they don't understand me, or they just can't relate. And the second side of the sword is sometimes Lumbee dialect is looked down upon by others because it is kind of associated with ignorance and uneducation. Not that my people are ignorant or uneducated because we have survived this long. But sometimes when you use the dialect in different regions, even in North Carolina, they just dismiss you because they think you're ignorant because you're not speaking standard English.
So here we have some Lumbee vernacular examples. So, use of the word beast, like I'd be so sick on my stomach, she'd be over there all the time. This is known as an invariant copula. And then we have a prefixing, like I was a coming as fast as I could, don't you be a writing with that pen on that sheet. A is indicating future action. And then the use of the word done, like she done lost her mind, he done fixed the car already. It's used as an auxiliary verb for the past tense. And then you have eliminating the verb, like you crazy.
they went over some of these words earlier, but we have like different vernacular. And it's really interesting because if I was in a different part of the state and I heard somebody say, hey, cuz, I know immediately he's Lumbee because he said cuz. So that's one of the words. So we have like one of the new popular ones is Cossack. So if you see a guy, hey Cossack, that's just what we call him. So and same thing with Mossack. And we talked about toting along. I'm tote. So if you're carrying something, you're toting something. We call our children youngins, and we say things like "What ail you," which means like "What's wrong with you?" And something that's very endearing because all the lums know each other. So the thing we do when we greet someone and we really don't know them, we'll say, "Who's your people? Who's your people?" And then if you start telling us who your aunt or your uncle is, oh, I know who you are. So that's really interesting. And another one is like, "You better tighten up," which means you better get your act together. So I want you to all say "cuz" with me one time. Because I'm recording this for my people back home. So on the count of three, everybody say "cuz." 1, 2, 3. Cuz. Yeah, thank you. All right, you can go. All right. So some ways we pronounce things. For it or ain't, we just add the H sound. Ain't you going to come to my house? Ain't you? Or for right or hide, we put a slight U before the I, so it'll be right or tied. We'll say you were right, weren't you? So it has that little U sound. For care or swear or anything that's that rhymes with care or swear, we say care or swear. I swear to God. Like we don't say I swear to God. I swear to God. All right, tire and hire, we change the IR to the AR sound. So it'll be tar. Did you change the tar? Okay. And for both and twos, we also do the TH fronting where we replace the TH sound with the F sound. So it'll be both of y'all or my tooth hurts. So that's kind of some of the things we do also. Oh, and this is really funny. This is Austin. We'll play just a little bit of this, but he's a local comedian. And what makes him so funny is the fact that he talks with the dialects. He's so funny. So go ahead.
I'm sick of it. Every time I look, there's a young and playing with this mess. It's 2018. I ain't seen a youngin' in the yard since 2004. I don't see him pick up a rag. Come here, burn this pile. I don't hear none of that. Back when I was growing up, you didn't see us here mess of fidget spinner. You didn't see. We didn't have social media. I was nearly 12 when I got a darn phone. These young'uns ain't gonna have no help.
Okay, you can turn it off.
No wonder they stay up to 1 and 2.
But he uses a lot of our. When I listen to Austin, I can hear like my grandparents. He's so funny. So
But he's only about, how old is he?
he's Austin's probably 18 or 19, very young. But these memes were circulating, and it was just in time, so they were circulating on my Facebook, and I was like, I can use these for my presentation. So this little thing, it says, say it again, how many times you've been to the club? About 50, 11 times. So in our thing, if they say, how many times have you done something? About 50, 11 times. All right, and mashed potatoes, we say mashed potatoes. All right, and instead of saying appreciate it, we say appreciate it. And here's the famous hold it down, my cousin. So when you're getting ready to leave and that's your goodbye, hold it down, my cousin. All right, and if something catches on fire, you say it caught fire. And a famous road in our town is 74, and it says, where do you live? And it says cross 74. So that's how we talk. I love those names, they're so funny.
And this is what we will leave you on a poignant reminder. So traditional Native American dress at panels asserts Indian identity, but the everyday use of dialect is one of the strongest indications of the natural connection between culture and language. So sums up our entire presentation. And we hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.